It lies between China and Russia and has recorded a remarkable history in mankind with the powerful conqueror the great Genghis Khan. However, after almost dominating Asia and Eastern Europe, the country seemed to have disappeared from the map. This nomadic nation has lost power to a small number of people with only 3 million inhabitants. Why is Mongolia so empty today? Why does this country have such a low population when it has so much land? Dzungar genocide. The Dzungar genocide was the mass extermination of the Mongol Dzungar people, at the hands of the Qing dynasty. The Qianlong Emperor ordered the genocide due to the rebellion in 1755 by Dzungar leader Amursana against Qing rule, after the dynasty first conquered the Dzungar Khanate with Amursana's support. Some scholars estimate that about 80% of the Dzungar population, or around 500,000 to 800,000 people, were killed by a combination of warfare and disease during or after the Qing conquest in 1755 to 1757. After wiping out the native population of Dzungaria, the Qing government then resettled Han, Wei, Uyghur, and Xibi people on state farms in Dzungaria along with Manchu Bannermento repopulate the area. As a result of the prolonged war, the population in Mongolia decreased dramatically. Civil war conflicts and poverty are among the causes of low birth rates. The economic growth that went through a crisis in the 90s had an impact on the Mongol population. Nomadic society. Mongolia's landscape is not suitable to hold big population that follow Mongolian ways of herding. Throughout the history, when the population reached a certain extent, any state existed on Mongolia's land split into two, then fought each other. The one that lost moved or migrated to the west. Those migrated usually adopted the culture and languages of the area they settled. During the Mongol Empire, many ethnic Mongols moved into Central Asia and married with the ethnic people in that area and eventually adopted their culture and language. Influence of Buddhism. Tibetan Buddhism has a long history of spreading on the Mongolian plateau. As early as the middle of the 13th century, the Mongols began to come into contact with Tibetan Buddhism. Although it has been widely spread in the royal family and the upper class, it has not completely changed the Mongolian shamanistic belief. Under the rule of the Qing dynasty that lasted for more than 2 centuries, 1691 to 1912, Buddhism in Mongolia emerged strongly, as never before, and became the dominant religion. 1 out of 3 Mongol men were Buddhist monks at the time of Qing dynasty. Since monks can't get married and have children, this is the biggest impact of the major cause of the tiny population in mainland Mongolia today. The harsh climate. Home to the Gobi Desert, and the country contains very little arable land, as much of its area is covered by grass steppe with mountains to the north and west and the Gobi Desert to the south. In 2018, population density in Mongolia is 2, whereas in China it is 145 people per square kilometer. Ideal population density is between 50 to 100 people per square kilometer, which makes Mongolia the most sparsely populated sovereign country on Earth. Mongolia is too cold and too dry. It's mostly mountains, steppe and desert. The average temperature over a whole year is -3 degrees Celsius. Grazing animals cannot eat and grow in areas where nutritious crops do not grow, so historically Mongols have kept animals to feed themselves and their diet has been mostly meat and milk. This requires a lot of space to feed each person, because it takes many acres of grass to feed a goat or sheep enough to get the same number of calories as an acre of wheat. Mongols needed a lot of calories to be out in the cold chasing their herds. Today there might be few ethnic Mongols, but there are millions of descendants of the Great Mongol Empire. One of the examples today, there are millions of Hazaras live across Afghanistan, Pakistan, Iran and the rest of the Central Asia. Hazara derives from Persian word, which is translation of the Mongol word, Mayanga, meaning, 1,000, a military unit of 1,000 soldiers. Countries like Uzbekistan and Kazakhstan spoke Chagatai language, which is spoken all across Central Asia until the early 20th century.